It always was. Can we make a start, ladies and gentlemen? Now we have three parishioners want to say something to us tonight. In no particular order. Does anybody want to go first, or shall we say ladies first?
I'll go first.
John's going to go first.
Yes, John.
Just before you say anything, we will be videoing all our meetings, and therefore, though you may not be seen, you will be recorded.
That's right.
John.
Yes, no, I'm just following up the emails that I've sent this last week to do with the building in Station Road, the proposed build. My point is, I get a lot of people come in to see me at the cider farm, obviously, a lot of locals, and everyone I speak to in the village, almost without exception, are against a housing estate being built. The only people who seem in favour of a housing estate are you, and I'd just like to know why. It's such a sensitive site, this, and you've had so much opposition. You had the opportunity to throw it out at the last meeting. Instead, everyone voted unanimously for a new road survey. We don't need 18 houses to house 5-6 families. And looking at the other sites and the overall opposition to them in the village, as I've said, I would just like to know why the parish council wants to build a housing estate in Brent Knoll that will spoil the village, in mine and many other people's opinion. And that's a simple question to you all.
Well, we recognise your opinion, and you have every right to express your opinion, but equally we have other opinions where people are looking to live in the village and can't afford to live in the village. And the only option we have, and it's not something that we've said yes to, definitely, we're exploring these situations, is that to build affordable houses, they have to be funded by market value houses. And that is the only option that we have been given or offered, or to be able to consider at this stage. And it's a consideration, it is not going to be a definite. And that's all we can say, and recognising that surely most people would recognise the need for youngsters having the opportunity to live in the village, particularly if they have family here and they can't afford to live in the village because of the prices of houses. And that's why we're looking at it. Yes, Colin.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask John, how would you propose that we provide accommodation for 6 families, and what is your definition of a housing estate? That seems rather...
Well, my definition of a housing estate would be when you turn the whole field into homes, as is proposed here. You can put up a row of cottages. You can split the build between 2 or 3 different sites. You don't have to concentrate it in one area. There are 11 proposed sites in this village. 6 homes, that's 2 homes in 3 separate locations. Brent Knoll could easily absorb that, but what Brent Knoll can't do and doesn't want to do, in my opinion, not just my opinion, is to have all those cars and the unsightly estate being built that takes up an area that is green zone in the village. It's so sensitive, this site.
Well,
and
John,
you know,
there are other
there
green
are other
zones
options.
in...
Not
Well,
the
would
green,
you like to tell us what those options are?
what as regards what?
Other sites?
Well, yeah, there's 11 other sites.
11?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Well, that's what you told us in the plan. You asked people.
Well,
I've been in this scheme personally for the last 3 years. We started out at number 7 with number 3 site in Southover. We then went up to number 3 from 7. The scrapyard's at number 1. You've got Mac Riches. There's the site at the end of the village. There are 11 sites, I believe.
All the sites that were
And so
considered.
there are options. And it
No,
just,
there aren't options with respect, because
there
Sedgemoor,
are options. The option would be just to say no, full stop, which is,
Well, that is
what
one option.
I think most people in Brent Knoll want. I'm just
Well-
speaking from what they tell me.
Peter,
It's not just me.
John, you were talking about building 6 properties, maybe in 3 different sites, but how
Yeah.
would they be paid for?
You're not, yeah, but people who buy affordables, they move to the village, they're going to need a car. There's no
What is
facilities.
your definition of a village? Is it a
Well, pretty
dormitory
much-
where everybody comes in and out of a locked gate at the end of the road?
Well, that's
is
what
it,
you'll be creating by building housing
No, you-
estates.
that is, we've been hijacked by that fellow.
Well,
This
don't
is-
be
there are
hijacked.
two-
Say
well,
no.
Well, this is not what you're talking about. You're talking about a separate issue.
I'm not.
You
You
are,
asked me
you're
a
talking
question, I've
about
answered it.
affordable housing.
I want to know why the village feels a duty. Why do we need to have affordable
Because that is
We all know
everybody,
it is.
everybody's duty is for mankind to live alongside each other and procreate and move along. Not to sort of say, I've arrived and bugger everybody else.
can we just say with respect, a survey has been done and has identified there is a need for 8 affordable houses potentially, and because that survey was done, I can't remember the exact date because it lied before but it was 2 or 3 years ago, at least 3 years ago. That survey has been revisited, and at our December meeting we will be getting feedback from Sedgemoor on the outcome of that survey. Now at that time the village was surveyed and there was an identifiable need for 8 affordable houses. So yes, you might be getting some people saying to you it's a bad thing, but equally at the time there was an obvious demand for houses.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not against housing people. I'm not against affordables at all.
But it's how those affordable houses are paid
It's how
for,
it's
bearing in mind that the government has no money. There is no money through any of the older style way of funding things, which is through council housing. That has ceased. Yes, Bob.
Just one thing to clarify on the 11 sites.
There we are, 11 sites.
I'll explain
Just
what the breakdown
question
is.
that, and there you go.
Yeah, there is the 11 sites that were shown on the plan are not all sites that were looked at as appropriate for affordable housing. What they were was sites which landowners have come forward to Sedgemoor and said,
Exactly.
we like our
I'm
land
involved.
forward.
I've been involved in this scheme
So-
from the start myself.
Some of those
Bob was sat with me at the kitchen table,
Exactly.
for God's sake,
I mean,
2 years ago.
Some of those could come forward for affordable housing because they meet the criteria. Some of them don't even get to the first bar. So the 11 sites were shown simply to show those ones that landowners in effect have said they want to put housing on some land. They weren't all part of the affordable housing element. So that's where the difference comes between what the parish council has looked at, which is much fewer than 11 sites. The other ones were ones that were literally just put forward by landowners saying, we'd like our land considered for development, irrespective of whether it was affordable or not. And as I say, some of those just simply won't make the criteria, so they drop out before anything moves forward anyway.
But at this moment in time, we're still awaiting further confirmation from Sedgemoor on the outcome of the survey they have recently done.
Might be increased.
Supposing it's dropped, supposing they come back and say, well, there isn't a demand for 8, now there's a demand for 5,
Well,
or 4, or there isn't a demand at all.
Yeah.
Some of these houses were for future generations, I
Equally,
believe.
it could turn around and they could say there's a demand for 20.
Could well be more.
So, you know, it's all ifs and buts at this stage, and we can't make judgments on something that we don't know the details of. Yes, Peter.
Yeah, where we are at with Station Row, we're at a state with Sedgemoor in addressing all the issues that are coming to the front with the development. It could be that, like yourself, you're complaining about it's not the right place. It could be that it is the wrong place, so therefore we have to go and look at another site. But after everything's been considered, all the sites being considered, some people wouldn't allow us to have the land, some people pieces of land weren't suitable. we ended up down at Station Road, but that we have to satisfy everybody who lives in Station Road that there's going to be no problems. I mean, it may be that there are so many problems that we have to go looking for somewhere else, but that's where we are at the moment.
Can we move on because time is pressing?
I'll follow on next because this is actually following on from what you've just said. You're looking into this at the moment. But this is to do with the land next to me because I actually live next door to the allotment, as it's called, the Baker's Land. And the gentleman who rents the Baker's Land in Station Road as an allotment was told by Mrs Baker, quote, that it was all going through and will be completed after Christmas, unquote. So can you explain exactly what this meaning? This means that at the previous meeting here we have been informed that nothing is set in stone and could take 2.5 years. So now what is going on? She is actually the person who owns the land is actually saying that it's done and that it's going to go ahead after Christmas.
As far as the parish council is concerned, and that's all I can speak for, because I don't know the lady, and B, I don't know where she's getting the information from.
Well, she owns the land.
No, I say I don't know the lady, and I don't know where she's getting the information from. We are at a stage where we're exploring the potential for a site. As I said earlier, Sedgemoor are coming back to us in December to tell us what the current survey has shown. We're not even at a stage where planning application or even plans have been developed.
I understand that, yes.
And it can't happen till after.
Well, then
that will take
I would like
2
to
years.
know then why this Mrs Baker, if that's who she is I don't know her. Jubilee Baker, yeah. I don't know. Why is she saying this then? Why is she telling this particular person this then? Because you can understand that we are.
I can't answer that.
I suggest you ask her.
Yes, Bob.
I mean, all I would say is to some extent it's what we think Mrs Baker may have said to Mr Gilbert, who has then said it to somebody else. I mean, we don't know.
All right,
But in terms of the actual process, the chairman is absolutely right. I mean, where we are at the moment is we're still waiting for the justification to be made in terms of the survey to show there is a need. Once that has happened, there'll then have to be some sort of, obviously there was an illustration that came forward to the public meeting here as to what could go on there. That will come back and be amended depending on the feedback that's been received and the need that is shown. So there's certainly nothing set in stone at the moment. It is literally moving forward a stage at a time to see what happens, and that's where we are. There's certainly nothing that, as of suddenly by December, it will all be signed, sealed and delivered, because as the chairman said, once you've got to that stage, it still has to, even if it was decided to go ahead, it still has to go through a full planning application at that stage anyway.
That's what our understanding was from the last
Yeah,
couple of meetings.
and that hasn't changed, and I'm sorry if you've been misled, but it's not being misled by us.
Well, I'll go and see myself then, and then I can find out what's going on.
Kevin?
Yeah, hopefully this is a fairly straightforward question on the process itself. On the 7th of September, I believe it was Councillor Hall acknowledged that there were problems around highways and access to Station Road sites. We know that at least 3 planning applications have failed because of road safety issues. As suggested at September 7th, has the developer been approached or asked to carry out a road survey on Station Road? And if not, why not at this stage, given that this could be a deal breaker?
We have not the power to ask him. It would be something that Sedgemoor would do. And at this stage, we're still awaiting Sedgemoor comment.
So just to clarify this, Sedgemoor would approach E.G. Carter to say you think there's a need for a road survey before anything takes place? Because Mr. Duncan Harvey said that you owned the process. He seemed to pass the buck to you on the 7th of September.
No,
He seems to say that the parish council owned this project, not him.
They were measuring on the survey. Highways have measured on the corner. They have.
The road's collapsing.
They were measuring up. Maybe it's something completely unrelated. Maybe it's just coincidence.
I think there's there may be a road collapse.
But I was under the impression that from the last meeting you all voted in favour of a highway survey, unanimously.
Yeah.
No,
Why don't you concentrate your efforts on the scrap sandings instead of concentrating on the green belt,
Just in terms of the alternative site, one of the issues that
It is the number one site. It has to be
absolutely,
said.
and to be fair, that's
I mean,
where
I see Richard Sandy. I know how difficult he is to deal with. I see him every week.
I mean
I
the
know he's difficult, but
the parish council's view and Sedgemoor's view when we were first looking at this was that that site was the site we all wanted to go for. The problem is you can only go for it if the landowner wants to go for it, and unfortunately the situation is there that they are not at the moment prepared to do that, and therefore that site is good in a lot of ways, but is unavailable. So it is that why that one's dropped out of the process. In terms of highways access, if and when it gets to the stage of a planning application, the applicant would have to do surveys to make sure that the highway is adequate, and obviously they would have to persuade the Highways Authority that they were happy that what was being proposed was acceptable. So that would come through as part of that process. If they proceed without doing that up front, that's obviously at risk for the developer, that they would have to take that into account at the time. So as part of that whole normal planning process, that will have to be looked at.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've always been told, you see, that I can't do anything due to my entrance being not 40 metres, having 40 metres of clear vision. Simple as that. And if you look at the maps, the entrance here and my entrance in 40 metres is you know, it's pretty tight. I can't see it being passed. I mean, 5 times it's been refused anyway, previously. Why is this time it going to be any different? I mean, the cars are getting bigger, lorries are getting huge.
With respect,
You know.
but the matters that we're talking about now are going to be planning issues, which will be, there will be an opportunity for anybody to raise objections that are covered by planning at that stage. If it did go for planning, we're not even sure it's going to go forward, so it's all conjecture. But we will take your comments, we note your comments again, and thank you for them. Unless you've got anything else, we will open our meeting.
No, I don't have anything else to say.
Right. Apologies for absence, Owen, please.
Apologies from David Knott and Brian Feast. Both David's working and Brian's on holiday.
Propose we accept those?
Yes, thank you.
That's fine.
Declarations of any pecuniary interest or personal and prejudicial interests on any issues on the agenda. On planning.
Anyone on predetermination on planning, and also pecuniary on the payment for the key cutting for the Green Gate.
And I have a personal one as well on my postage.
Pecuniary and payment.
And I noticed what the chairman's allowance. Do we want to...
Well, we can talk about that when we get to that point if you like. Talk about that when we get to that particular item.
Right, confirmation. We've had two meetings since we met last, and we have 2 sets of minutes.
Fine.
All of which have been circulated. I believe anybody who has the opportunity has sent comments to Owen, unless anybody's got any objections.
Any comments that I've had have been amended, so
So can I, is it okay to sign them?
Yeah.
Thank
for
you.
both meetings. It's interestingly, the 5th of October, of course, the minutes were taken from YouTube. Because obviously I wasn't here, so if there are any comments, that's what I think.
Yes. Sorry, it's an improvement.
Just one more. Have you ever read it?
I do actually read it, but
Have you read War and Peace?
oh no, I haven't. I thought you meant how the
No,
minutes.
no, no, War and Peace. like that one.
That's good there on that,
Okay.
isn't it?
Right. We're going on to item 4, which is planning, but before we do, a couple of things. We're conscious that planning regulations and the rules keep changing, and we know that there has been a couple of briefing sessions offered by Sedgemoor that unfortunately some of us who wanted to go didn't go for various reasons. And talking to Bob, he is happy to give us all a briefing on the current changes if members felt that was appropriate. I think it would be a worthwhile exercise for us all to be aware of these changes, particularly as they impact on us. And Bob is happy to do this if we're all prepared to get together out with a normal meeting. I think it personally would be a good idea if we did this. And
Yeah, agree with that.
yeah,
I would like to be excluded.
fine.
Thank you. Because then I can ask any question in ignorance.
Always the way to do it, Peter.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Do we want to leave it for Owen to suggest some dates?
Well, what I was going to suggest was if anybody wanted to, what about the pre-December meeting, perhaps where we had our finance meeting this afternoon, do a planning session then, that would be suitable. Just an idea, that was all. Because it's a day that's already sort of locked out for meetings and stuff.
Would that be all right with you, Bob? I mean, I talk about half an hour or something.
If I just send that around as an email, and if anybody just let me know if they're able to come or if they're not, probably that's the best way of doing it.
And also, it would be useful, I think, to rather than let Cynthia, having her done a detailed knowledge, and recognising that we all as councillors have a duty to have comment or make comment if indeed there are comments to be made on any of these planning applications. So it would be useful, I think, we would just go around the table and seek individual councillors' comments, and then Cynthia can add anything that she thinks we may have missed on any specific issues. So really, so as a point of principle, that's what I'm going to start doing going forward, and hopefully that'll shorten the process, encourage people to ensure they've looked at the plans, and we've all had notifications, etc. At this stage, I guess, Bob, you better leave for about 5 seconds.
Can I just say one thing? We were talking about the training bit earlier.
Yeah.
I think Owen's going to circulate to members anyway the various PowerPoint presentations that Sedgemoor gave at the last training session, which will basically sort of give some background to that. And it's certainly not trying to limit what people can say about a planning application. It's trying to give people the information so that they can get as much input to the planning process as they can. And obviously there are some things you can comment on, there are some things that you can't, and as long as you know which is which, then you can say what you like about it, but then you'll have an impact. Whereas if you go down the line of saying things which are not ultimately able to be considered by Sedgemoor, it just means that you'll feel then that you've not been listened to, but you've not been listened to because what you were saying was something they couldn't deal with anyway. So it's trying to make sure that everyone gets the best out of it anyway.
And obviously planning rules will be changing as we speak on this.
Constantly, as I mentioned when we met earlier, I mean, there are things like prior approvals that have come in now, which actually a decision has to be made by the district council within 56 days, and if they don't make it within that time frame, the thing gets granted permission automatically, irrespective of what people think. So that's why we need to just make sure that we're as hot on the process as we can be.
This should only take a few minutes, I think, hopefully. So you're not having to bolt too long. So, I don't know whether Malcolm, have you looked at the, I mean, basically what we have here is Wick Farm, they want to extend they've already got planning permission for their 25-year life, and they're looking to seek to extend it to a further 5 years to 30 years. Have you any, sorry Peter, we're going to go around the table.
Sorry.
Malcolm, have you got any thoughts? Or, I mean, if you don't have to make any comments at all, if you're happy with it.
With a application like this, It's a variation, so the planning has already been passed,
Correct.
so it's just going to be amended. But with any projects of a substantial size, normally the companies give some recompense to the local vicinity.
Can we discuss that out with the planning application, please?
It's not part of the planning.
It's not part of
Sorry.
planning.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Right, so, yeah, I'll take your point and we'll talk about it later in the meeting. Bella, anything?
Yes. Is there anything to say they cannot extend it to 30 years in Cynthia or you?
There isn't.
There isn't, so they can just choose to ask to extend
They
it?
could ask it for 100 years, you know.
Right, okay.
You know, it's up to the planning authorities, but...
Okay.
Andrew?
No.
I have no comments. John?
No.
Colin?
My only comments are associated with the life of this solar park. It's already in place. You must make sure I'm talking
No,
correctly.
you're not.
It's built.
No, it's not.
No, it's not
This
built.
is the one that's
This is
going
not-
to
this
be
is not
built.
Hampstead Energy One.
This is not Hadstone.
No, it's not Hadstone. So this is a.
This is the one that we've already agreed we had no objections to. It's about 500 yards down Wick Lane on the right hand side in those fields to be. It hasn't yet been started. The construction has started.
What is the purpose of extending the life from 25 to 30 years?
I guess it's
commercial.
It's commercial.
It's commercial.
And I assume they have responsibility to put the land in the same condition as it was when they take it all out at the end of the 30 years.
Absolutely.
It's not a lifetime agreement, it's simply a defined period.
Peter?
Yes.
I have no further comment then.
Peter?
Well, what I wanted to know was why is the temporary planning application for 30 years?
No, 30 years.
Say that temporary.
No, well, this is just a variation.
It's a
They've
variation.
got planning
variation.
permission,
Yeah.
but they want to
So
vary.
I read somewhere that it was a temporary.
No.
Condition, it's condition 3 of the original application stated the time period, and they want to vary that
Well,
condition
ready
from 25 years to 30.
17th of December they got their planning consent, so it's almost a year ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't specifically say why, but they want it. And there's a letter here, if anyone wants to read it, it's all in here. But they haven't given any, what I call, it's just that they want to extend it, and there's a commercial decision. Online, the comments, environmental health, no comments on this application, and the ecologist, the Somerset Ecologist Services, and there's no comments or objections. So there were 2 people that were online, and there weren't any adverse comments.
Your boots up here to check it.
So can we have a proposal to accept or...
Well, unless anyone comes up with, anyone here feels
Can I
that
have a
it
full-
isn't
can I have a
acceptable,
full-
but they've already got planning permission, and it's just to give it for the next 5 years, and I don't think
So
that's going
can
to
we have a
affect.
can we have a full proposal, please, and second?
I'll formally propose it.
Seconder, please.
No,
Joe. Yeah, all in favour.
Bob can come back in there.
Can you ask Bob in and speak to you? And it's
What I've done so far.
Sorry?
Are you supporting it? Excuse me.
Well,
Are you supporting it?
Me?
No, I'm generally.
Yeah, we are supporting it,
Yeah.
With no observation.
with no observation.
Coming back on to Malcolm's point, it became evident sort of back end of last week that most of these companies, and Malcolm's quite right, now are encouraged to give community grants to parishes and towns where these particular locations are made. And so I decided to dig around a bit in this and got hold of the agent, spoke to the agent's representative. They gave me the details of the company speak to the company directly. I spoke to the company up in Leeds, Lancashire, and I had a chat with their MD, and I explained to him that they had in fact already proposed some form of community benefit in the previous application, but it had largely been discounted over time, and that we as Parish Council would expect them ideally to fulfil that obligation and to give the community some form of grant benefit, particularly in view of the fact that we've had another application from another company who have done just that. And after a lot of jigging around, he came back to me this morning, or the agent came back to me and said they would be prepared to make a grant of £2,000 per annum for the first 5 years of the project. So, in other words, £10,000 grant, which can be paid over a period of 5 years, so £2,000 per year, or a lesser sum that could be paid immediately as a lump sum. Or alternatively, which I discounted on your behalf, was a payment to be made at the end of the 25-year period. And I did say to him, with no guarantees you'll be there or will be there in the 25 years, so perhaps it would be a good idea if we did it before rather than after. So we've agreed on the grant, providing they get planning application granted from Sedgemoor for this extension, they are prepared to give us a £10,000 grant paid over a 5-year period. So we've had to be proactive about it because it wouldn't have come otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's all I need to say really, and you need to decide when we look at the budgets how you want that grant to be used and so on and so forth. But if the district council decide to support it and agree it, then that's what we've had. And we've had it in writing as well. I've had an email this afternoon also agreeing to that figure. Okay.
So Mr Chairman, then do we make a proposal that we accept it in principle?
I think at this stage we have two options, don't we? We either have the offer of £2,000 a year for the next 5 years, or a smaller total sum up front. I would propose 5 payments of £2,000 over the next 5 years. Can I have a show of hands on accepting that? Thank you. So, majority for accepting that one, please. Okay. Just to reiterate, it is subject to Sedgemoor planning approval.
Okay. Thanks.
Right, reports on footpaths. Peter?
Yes, I had a phone call from Mr. Somebody. The notes are in here, but as I explained, I dropped them all as I got at the car tonight, and it's in there somewhere. I've lost it, but the fact is on AX81, that's the footpath that runs up alongside the cider farm. He lives in the property adjacent to that on the other side of the cider farm. The gate at the end of the alley, not the one out on the main road, the other end of the alley, is the stub, which is our jurisdiction, is really falling apart. It's unsafe. It's wrong that we even attempt to climb it. People have been going back and forth through the landowner's gate. I was wondering as to whether we could see Chris East as to whether we could either buy a gate and he fits it, or he supplies the gate and we fit it, or best of all, he supplies the gate and fits it.
Roughly how much would that cost?
I don't know these days.
Do you mean a gate with a small gate
Yes,
in
a
it?
big double gate, a
with
farm gate with a wicket gate
Yeah.
in it. They're far better than how
Would
built.
it be in excess of £500?
I suspect so.
Yeah.
It's just that we had a debate this afternoon, and we're very conscious that under our regulations and rules that we should meet, that we ought to seek to get 3 quotes if any project is over £500. So yes, we would approach this gentleman to get that view, but I think we ought to get quotes from people as well.
If you speak to Chris Ellis, he'd be able to tell you.
Yes. They've got a supplier. Sorry, when we bought the horse gate, they bought the horse gate because they get preferential rates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would tell you straight away how much that gate would cost.
I'll contact Chris East.
Just speed again.
But there is an issue. If it's the gate and the fitting of it, it may come over as £500. If it's just the supplying of the gate, it may be under £500. If it's the labour for fitting the gate, it could be for under £500. So we really need to go where to be where we are at before we go looking for someone to do the job.
We'll get that
Maybe if we
sorted.
strike lucky, he may be able to supply.
Could he quote for both, but do it separately, as it were? And then the value would be less than £500.
Mr Chairman, I wouldn't think Chris East would have any money to spend on labour to do that work. He's virtually not doing anything, I understand, at the moment. But I think we should start with pricing the gates and see where we
So
go.
if you could do that.
Yeah, okay, I'll speak to Chris.
Anything else, Peter?
No, footpaths are they're okay at the moment. I mean, we're expecting the leaves to drop now. The footpath beyond the reservoir, we're still waiting for that to be stoned. We've got the stones hidden somewhere, but I don't know when that's going to happen. But that'll come now because it'll resurrect itself because it'll be all muddy and slushy.
There was one item, John, that you were going to meet with Ian Durston, I think, weren't you, to talk about the Knoll footpath?
Yes, he came, he looked at the posts up the steep pitch. There are 6 need replacing, and he thinks that the rails will be replaced, but he can just put them straight back on, but he might bring a spare with him just in case. So there are 6 posts going in, and presumably, well, you've got the quote, haven't you?
Actually.
Has he not sent it to you?
That's why I didn't ask the question, because I hadn't heard.
No, he hasn't given me a quote.
But he is quite slow generally, is he? And actually, so I'm not surprised.
No, I asked him to send it to you.
No, I haven't seen. I'll give him a ring and remind him. Remind him.
But he did it, well,
Okay.
10 days ago.
Okay.
Moving on, highway reports, anything?
Nothing to report.
Peter?
Outside of Cynthia's house, there is a loose curbstone.
Outside what's on?
Cynthia's house. Well, it's outside the
Hairdressers.
loft, isn't it? The
The loft,
access into
yes.
the loft.
Loose curbstone.
The curbstones are all the way up to it, and both sides of it. We've repaired the rest of the village, but there's a loose
And
curbstone.
then that gentleman, I'm sure it was him, he came this afternoon.
Yeah, the chap from Station Road, Kevin Goodhue, he raised the matter about the, is it by South, is it the location he was talking about? He showed it on his phone actually, where the road is subsiding away.
Yes.
Opposite South Hole.
That's Southbourne, that's right, yeah. Which is one that was raised previously, and we've raised it with the county highways about 3 times now, I
That's
think,
right.
and still nothing's been done about it. So that needs to be stepped up, I think, in terms of urgency, because it does look quite serious on the picture. So.
Is there a mechanism we can raise?
Yeah, what I normally do, I usually ask to go and look at the guy, Gary Adams, if he can specifically go out there and have a look at it, because sometimes he doesn't always get the messages, so I'll ask Gary Adams.
Okay, thank you. Village Green and sorry.
If I could just raise up at the A38 junction. You remember at the last meeting we asked Jason Mayer to do some cutting back of the overgrowth that's come over the pavement. He has done some, but to be honest he hasn't taken it all the way back because the hedge is quite a long way out over it, so we can't actually get under it. I don't know whether we've had any feedback from the Hales in terms of, we wrote to them
We did.
to remind them
We
about
wrote to
cutting the
Manor
hedge back.
We wrote to Andrew and Manor
There are some quite nasty brambles coming out from there, and if you do walk along there, you're in danger of having
Smashing the
being
face.
injured.
Is it worth writing to them?
No, what I'll do is I'll phone Andrew up actually. I've got Andrew's telephone number, so I'll phone him.
Peter?
Yeah, going back to highways, Bob's just reminded me, I went down to the A38 and removed the signs, the one for the HGV and also cleaning ovens, that's it, yeah, and another one for a dog show in Remark and another one for car boot sale in High Ridge and through a mall in ditch. So we'll have a complaint from the landowner. And now I can just put them behind where the ladies have to come, just down
I guess, Chairman, we probably ought to just make a note of the fact that Peter mentioned, but we've had a huge amount of pavement repaired which in the last few weeks, which obviously is an awful lot better on Brent Street than it was.
Good.
They haven't come down our way there.
They're either side of you.
Yes,
You've
I
got
know.
beyond.
That's why you've got the broken curb.
I know, that's it, they've left it.
Because of all those parked cars.
It's disgraceful.
Who did the Village Green?
David was Village Green this month.
Who did it?
Andrew did it. Sorry, Andrew did it. David's doing this month. isn't he?
So, Village Green today, it's recently been mowed. The grass is in good condition and there's no issues with the hard surfaces. The benches and picnic tables are in good order. Because we've now got rid of a lot of the brambles, the wire fencing is sagging, which, you know, the brambles keep them up. But the hedges are trimmed back, the shrubs and the trees are losing their leaves, but everything is okay. There's nothing broken, there's nothing falling down, there's no issues. There was absolutely no rubbish, and the whole look of the park was really very tidy. It was really good today. The car park's in good order. The boundary fence, again, could be improved behind the mugger, but that might be something that we could think about next year. I did have a look around the external block of the toilet. I wasn't brave enough to go in, but the park is very well used by a wide range of local people. It's well kept, it's well stocked, and you can tell by like the witch's hat where there is grass missing, that, you know, everything is being used really well, and I've not heard anybody say a bad word about the mugger. They think it's amazing. So it's really good, really positive.
I think I was pleasantly surprised by the mugger use. It is actually being used as much by the youngsters as opposed to the teenagers, which is quite good. So I think it's been a very good investment. Thank you.
On the green inspection, we have here, I've reinstated the book that I know a lot of people missed some time ago, and all I've done, I've marked it up until the end of March with those people that are doing the various, and all you just need to do is put any comments in there and just pass it on to the next person. So if there's any issues, they can obviously follow it up next time. If there's any ongoing issues, we can look at on a monthly basis.
But for the book, we're not looking for War and Peace in the book. Please
issues.
just put issues. You know, you've done a very good job of saying it all looks nice. That's fine. Don't need to put it in the book. We just want to know
things that we need to action.
That we need to action, please.
So,
who's going to be seeing David?
Well, in fact, because I've got you down as November actually, because I had David down as October. So it seems, are you happy to pass on to David? Or?
Yeah. Would you do that?
And just swap it over. I've done that sort of book because it's easy to turn the cover back and write on it when you're actually on the green.
Yeah,
so
seven is raining.
7 is raining, yeah, exactly. And just signed at the bottom as well, just so that you've just done it, that's all for that month. And another December. Right.
Yes, Peter.
The car park, I came down and cleared the rest of the ivy away from the bottom of the fence last week. And when I came down, there's a car that's been parked there for some time now. It looks as though it's getting ready for a safari. Spends an awful lot of time in the car park. I believe it belongs to young Des. I don't know, the Southern Ceilings man. Across the road, he lives across the road, but it's always parked up there. Another thing was that when I arrived, there were 2 flower pots with signs stuck in them, reserved for a party girl. One was in one of the spaces, and the other one was reserved for Rihanna. So I take it there must have been a party or something in the hall. But
Rihanna? Are you deputising for Rihanna?
no,
That's all right.
it's not me.
But
Anyway, I'll pick them up through the bin.
oh, right, they go on. Right, okay.
But I just wanted to know as to whether people assume that the car park belongs to the hall when they have a party, but it doesn't.
No.
Probably all know that, but those that are
Can you take that on board, Bob, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, in the nicest possible way.
yeah, they've got enough to do finding their nice forks and spoons.
Right, monthly report from GB Sports.
I sent that around by email. The interesting thing was that everything on there is low risk. There's nothing on there of medium risk or upwards. And what I have done today, just a matter of interest, I didn't recall that I'd received the annual report with all the photographs. So while I was here this afternoon, I emailed Jo at GB Sports, and she's now sent me the annual report. So I'll send it out to everybody, so you can have a look at it, and perhaps we'll have it on the December agenda, and if there's any items there that we need to deal with, we can deal with.
Yeah.
So I'll send it to everybody.
In terms of the monthly report, if you do look at it, the only thing that I mentioned when we were having our finance group today there's a lot of items on there that, as Owen said, are flagged up as low risk. But when they were started to be flagged up, they were being flagged up 2-3 years ago, and they just stay on the inspection report. Should we be taking some form of effort to go through that list and getting them removed? And I was going to suggest that Brian's not here tonight, whether his working group would be prepared to take a look at it and just see what the significance is, if any, of these items and what action we could be doing to take them off this report. I'm just conscious that if ever there was an accident and the insurance companies looked at the documentation and they could say, even though it's low risk, you were aware of this 3 years ago and you haven't done anything. So, and that's just what.
I think a lot of them related to the trip hazards, where obviously the ground has dropped around where we've had the tiles put. And I just wonder whether it's worth getting a quote from Jason Mayo to get the soil put in, and either probably turf would be best to get it in there to adapt it. But I mean, it's not going to get any better, they're going to continue to sink. But
Absolutely.
But it would be fairly easy to, a lot of those low risk ones are dated, all go back to that sort of trip hazard issue, which if we get a quote from him, at least we know what we're looking at.
I mean, what we perhaps could do is, it's going to sink over the winter period, whether we could actually ask him every year, March, April time, to look at all those areas and take some action, particularly in line with what we were talking about on his contract.
Yeah, sure. The other thing is that there was some talk a few meetings ago about our sort of regime for plan inspection and whether we should be looking at other contractors to do on perhaps a more detailed report, perhaps on a less regular basis. I looked at quite a few, and most of them are sort of £400 or £500 a year for 2 visits to do an inspection. The one thing that most of them have in common is that they will fix things that need doing immediately. So, for example, if there's a bolt loose or there's something that needs immediate attention, as part of their inspection, they will actually attend to it. But it's really, in the end of the day, it's a question of whether we want to increase our expenditure on play inspection. If we feel that we're happy with GB Sport, that's fine. But if you feel they're not doing perhaps as good a job as they might, then that's equally something we need to look at. So it's over to you, really, how you feel that GB Sport's
Any
performing.
views on GB Sport?
Did you say when you were talking last time or the time before that the inspection at the end is included in that £500 with some of them? Or did you say you had to pay?
They vary a bit, but most of them have got an annual fee that you pay on a monthly basis to them. And then for that they do, say, 2/3 visits. But those 2/3 visits are more comprehensive than what GB Sports do. They look at more detailed report, and if there's anything that need attending to, they actually attend them. So it's a slightly different way of doing things, actually.
I mean, the trouble with that is they might do an inspection, say in March, at the beginning of the season, and one in October, November, and during that time things may happen, and it's then the reliance of you round the table to pick it up.
Yes.
I think I would be concerned, if we moved away from the monthly inspections, whether it's GB Sports or not, I'm not so worried about. But in terms of, one of the reasons we went with that was up until we used to have the monthly inspections, by then it was down to members to go around and do the inspections to make sure nothing had happened. If we're leaving it 4 to 6 months between inspections, I think it would have to come back to us to do the in-between ones. And I don't know that we're necessarily competent to do that.
And quite frankly, also, it would be hard to find anybody else who would do a monthly inspection at that sort of price. I mean, 18 is £15 for them because it's £3 VAT. So most of these other companies are not even local. I mean, they're from Oxfordshire and all over the place. So to find somebody to come on a monthly basis and do it for 15 quid, I can't imagine there'd be too many takers out there, to be honest. So that
Unless anybody has any objections, I would propose we would continue with GB Sports for the immediate future.
That's a second.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I guess flood mitigation is not an issue at the moment, Peter.
We started to pump up on Monday.
Thank you. First time start?
No. Trouble, we couldn't get it to start. and then I pressed the button on the regulator and it seemed to work. So it may be that the diaphragm in the regulator is getting perished or hard. So really needs taking it off and sending it away. I don't know who, are we buy a regulator? You can get it to go by pressing the button.
You're talking to a non-mechanical genius, so I don't understand these things. But if I would buy your expert opinion or recommendation.
Well, I could take it off and dismantle it and have a look at the diaphragm and see if I feel it needs replacing. Or we can send it away. I'm not proficient. I'm not with a licence.
I'm just conscious that
That's right.
if we get it to a point where if we were going to have to use it, we need to.
Yeah.
It needs to be operational.
But the thing is, if you buy another one, you see it will sit there and it will the same thing will happen.
Yeah, because it's not being used, I guess, is it?
If you buy one, you don't know how long it's been on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
I mean, is it something we should have as a spare rather than replace?
Well, I think so.
So from